Well, hello lovely people and a massive welcome. I'm your secret millionaire, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be sharing my story with you today. It's a journey that's taken me from some pretty humble beginnings, I can tell you, to a place I once only dreamt of. We're talking about building a 51-property empire, and more importantly, creating a life of financial freedom and choice. It might sound like a bit of a fairy tale, but I promise you, it's all wonderfully, beautifully real. I'm just an ordinary person like you who discovered that with the right mindset and a bit of grit, extraordinary things are truly possible. So grab a cuppa, get comfy, and let's chat. I didn't start out with a silver spoon in my mouth, not by a long shot. There were no trust funds or secret inheritances paving my way. In fact, my early life was pretty standard, filled with the usual ups and downs and that constant nagging feeling that there had to be more to life than just getting by. I reckon a lot of you might know that feeling, right? That little voice inside that whispers about wanting more security, more opportunities, more time to do the things you genuinely love. That was me, through and through, just a regular person with big dreams and a healthy dose of determination brewing inside. For years, I worked hard in various jobs, climbing the ladder, always striving. I even reached an executive level, which sounds impressive, doesn't it? But deep down, I yearned for something different, something more. I wanted to be my own boss, to call the shots and to build something lasting for my family. Especially when I became a mum, that desire for independence and financial security really kicked into high gear. It's a powerful motivator, wanting the best for your little ones, and it certainly lit a fire under me to explore different paths and really chase those aspirations, no matter how daunting they seemed at first. And that's really the heart of why I'm sharing all this with you, because if I, starting from where I did, could figure this out and build a life of abundance, then I truly believe that you can too. It's not about being special or having some rare gift. It's about learning, growing, and taking those crucial first steps, even when you're shaking in your boots. My journey wasn't a straight line to success. Oh goodness no, there were plenty of wobbles and stumbles, but every single experience taught me something valuable, and I'm here to share those lessons, hoping they'll light up your path too. Now, you might be thinking, all right, ma'am, a 51-property empire, that sounds fantastic, but what's that got to do with me? And that's a fair question. But let me tell you, this story isn't just about bricks and mortar or numbers on a spreadsheet, though those are part of it, of course. It's about so much more than that. It's a story about transformation, about changing your mindset from I can't to how can I. It's about discovering the incredible power you have within you to reshape your financial future and design a life you absolutely love. I want to show you the how, the real practical steps. The path to financial freedom, let me be completely honest, wasn't always a walk in the park. There were moments of doubt, times when things got incredibly tough, and I felt like throwing in the towel. We faced challenges that tested our resolve, believe me. But it's often through those very struggles that we unearth our greatest strengths and learn the most important lessons. I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything, because they shaped me and made the eventual success all the sweeter. And it's those real, raw experiences I'm keen to share, not just the glossy highlights, because that's where the true learning lies for you. What I've learned over 2 decades in this game isn't just theory plucked from a textbook. It's hard-won wisdom, forged in the fires of real-world investing, countless hours of study, and yes, a few mistakes along the way. We've invested thousands of dollars in our education, attending close to 10 full bootcamp courses with some of the most respected gurus in the property world. This journey has been a continuous learning curve, a relentless pursuit of knowledge and improvement, and it's this distilled experience I want to pass on, to save you some of the bumps I encountered. Ultimately, my story matters because it's a testament to what's possible when you combine passion with a plan and a big dose of perseverance. Perhaps you're dreaming of leaving a 9-to-5 job that no longer fulfills you, or maybe you want to secure a comfortable retirement, or simply have more quality time to spend with your loved ones. These are the very dreams that fueled my journey. I've walked this path, from employee to entrepreneur, from financially stretched to financially free, and I'm here to tell you that your aspirations are valid, achievable, and so incredibly worth fighting for. So when I talk about a 51 property empire, I know it can sound a bit mind-boggling. And believe me, there are days when I still pinch myself. But I don't say it to brag, not at all. I share it as tangible proof, as a real-life example of what can be built with dedication, the right strategies, and a willingness to learn and take calculated risks. It's a portfolio that has provided us with significant passive income, giving us choices and freedom we once only imagined. It's the result of years of focused effort, strategic decisions, and never losing sight of our long-term goals, even when things got a bit hairy. And it's not just us saying we've done all right. Our journey has been recognised by some of the top property publications in Australia, which has been incredibly humbling. In 2025, the prestigious Australian Property Investor magazine featured our story, detailing how we went from humble beginnings to where we are now. Then, in 2022, we were thrilled to be included in the I Love Real Estate magazine as one of their 16 amazing stories of how to achieve financial freedom using real estate. These moments were real affirmations for us. The recognition didn't stop there, which still amazes me. This property guru included our story in her book, Secrets of Successful 14 Property Investors, revealed back in 2021. Way before that, in 2015, we were finalists in the I Love Real Estate competition, which was an incredible experience. They even flew us down to Melbourne to share our story with 1,000 people at a conference. And going back even further, Your Investment Property magazine named us second runner-up in their 2014 Investor of the Year awards, and first covered my story way back in 2012. All these accolades and features aren't just shiny trophies on a shelf. They represent milestones on a journey of continuous learning and application. I even had the honour of being a blogger for the online version of Your Investment Property magazine for a while. This journey has been underpinned by a massive commitment to education, completing courses with experts like some of the top leading property experts in property, from Australia's top renovation queen and leading property developers, to name just a few. It's this wealth of knowledge, combined with 2 decades of hands-on experience, that I'm so eager to share with you, hoping to inspire and equip you for your own success story. Right then, let's rewind the clock a bit, shall we? Way back before any thoughts of property portfolios or financial freedom were even a twinkle in my eye. My childhood wasn't one of mansions and ponies, far from it. We were a pretty average family living a simple life. There were no shortcuts, no inheritances waiting in the wings, just the everyday rhythm of a normal upbringing. I suppose you could say we were comfortably humble, where every penny was earned through good old-fashioned hard work. It was a grounded start, which, looking back, probably gave me a decent appreciation for the value of things and the effort required to achieve anything worthwhile in this life. My parents were wonderful, truly. They weren't entrepreneurs or high-flying executives. They were everyday people who instilled in my siblings and me the importance of honesty, integrity, and trying your best. They believed in getting a good education, finding a secure job, and being a good person. Sound advice, absolutely, and values I still hold dear. However, the idea of building wealth or investing for the future wasn't really part of our dinner table conversations. Financial literacy wasn't something taught explicitly. Rather, it was about being sensible with what you had, saving for a rainy day and avoiding debt as much as possible. So the drive for financial independence was something I had to discover and cultivate largely on my own later on. Growing up, I wouldn't say I was particularly fixated on money, but I did have this quiet, persistent curiosity about the world, and a sense that there was more out there. I was a bit of a dreamer, always imagining different possibilities, though I couldn't quite articulate what more looked like back then. I loved reading and learning, soaking up stories of people who had achieved interesting things. There wasn't a grand plan for riches, not at that age, but there was definitely a budding awareness that effort and learning could open doors. It was more a feeling, a quiet yearning, than a concrete ambition in those early days, a typical youthful optimism mixed with a touch of wonder. I remember one particular school fete where I decided to run a little stall. I'd spent weeks making little crafts, nothing fancy, just bits and bobs I thought people might like. It wasn't about making a fortune, but the thrill of creating something and then seeing someone actually want to buy it was incredibly exciting. I think I made a few quid, enough for some sweets and a new book. But the real takeaway was that feeling of accomplishment. It was a tiny, almost insignificant event, but it planted a little seed, perhaps, about the possibility of creating value and being rewarded for initiative, a very early, very small taste of enterprise. So, after school and all the usual teenage angst, it was time to step out into the big, wide world of work. My initial career aspirations were, well, a bit vague, if I'm honest. Like many young people, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. The main goal was to get a job, earn some money, and find my feet. I certainly didn't have a clear vision of becoming a property magnate back then. That particular dream was still many years away, hidden behind layers of everyday life and work experience. My first forays into the job market were more about gaining experience and figuring things out as I went along, learning the ropes of responsibility and the daily grind. My first proper jobs were a real mixed bag, I can tell you. I did a stint in banking, which taught me a lot about customer service and patience. Oh, the patience you need sometimes. Then I moved into an administrative accounting role in a busy office, learning about systems and processes and the importance of being organized. These weren't glamorous positions by any stretch of the imagination, and they certainly weren't making me rich, but each one was a learning curve. They taught me about workplace dynamics, about dealing with different personalities, and, crucially, about what it meant to trade my time for a wage, day in and day out. And let me tell you, there were definitely some hard knocks along the way. I encountered my fair share of challenging bosses, the kind who made you count down the minutes until home time. There were periods of feeling undervalued, of working incredibly hard for what felt like very little recognition or reward. The paychecks often seemed to disappear before they'd even landed in my bank account, especially when you're young and trying to make your way. It was during these times, feeling like a very small cog in a very large impersonal machine, that the first stirrings of wanting something different, something more, really began to take root in my mind. These early experiences, while sometimes frustrating, were incredibly formative. They slowly but surely chipped away at any naive notions I might have had about work and success just falling into your lap. I started to realize that if I wanted more control over my financial destiny, and indeed my time, then simply being an employee, no matter how diligent, might not be enough. The desire for autonomy, for the ability to make my own decisions and reap the rewards of my own efforts, began to bubble beneath the surface. It wasn't a sudden epiphany, more like a gradual awakening, fueled by the daily realities of the working world. There wasn't one single lightning bolt moment, where everything suddenly became clear. Instead, it was more like a slow burn, a growing realization that the path I was on wasn't quite leading to the destination I craved, even if I couldn't fully articulate that destination yet. I recall periods of intense reflection, often on the commute home from a long day, wondering if this was all there was to it. Was life just about working for the weekend and hoping for a small pay rise each year? That thought started to feel incredibly restrictive, almost suffocating, and I think that discomfort was the real catalyst for change. The internal debate was quite something, I can tell you. On one hand, there was the comfort of the known, the security of a regular paycheck, however modest. The thought of stepping outside that box was genuinely terrifying. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of what other people might think. All those lovely anxieties loved to pay me a visit. But on the other hand, there was this increasingly insistent voice, a whisper that grew louder over time, urging me to seek something more fulfilling, something that would give me a greater sense of purpose and control over my own life's narrative. I didn't suddenly quit my job and dive headfirst into a risky venture, not at all. My first steps were much more tentative. I started reading voraciously, books on personal development, finance, stories of successful entrepreneurs. I began to educate myself, trying to understand how wealth was actually created, beyond just earning a salary. It was like opening a door to a whole new world of possibilities I hadn't really known existed. This period was less about grand actions and more about a fundamental shift in my mindset, from passively accepting my circumstances to actively seeking ways to change them, to learn and grow. These early challenges, the daily grind, the feeling of being stuck, they all played a crucial role. They weren't just obstacles, They were the grit that started to form the pearl, so to speak. They built a resilience in me, a determination that I probably wouldn't have developed if everything had been plain sailing. It was this burgeoning inner drive, born from a desire for something more and fueled by a newfound commitment to self-education, that really laid the groundwork for the more focused and ambitious steps I would take later. The spark had well and truly been ignited, and I was beginning to understand that my future was mine to create. So, there I was, diligently climbing that corporate ladder, rung by rung. I'd put in the hours, goodness me, I'd poured my heart and soul into my career. And you know what? I actually did pretty well for myself. I managed to reach a top executive level at the firm I was with, which felt like a massive achievement at the time. It was a role with significant responsibilities, managing teams, overseeing big projects, and making important decisions. On paper, it looked like I had it all: a successful career, a good title, and the respect that came with it. It was the kind of job that many people aspire to, and I was genuinely grateful for the opportunities I'd been given and the skills I'd developed. For a while, that corporate success was enough. I enjoyed the challenges, the fast pace, and the feeling of contributing to something significant. I was a banker for 13 years, which really taught me the ins and outs of finance, a skill that would prove invaluable later, though I didn't quite see it then. I also worked as a marketing manager for a UAE-based company, even coordinating one of the biggest events in the UAE, where incredible names like Richard Branson and Bill Clinton were speakers. Imagine that. It was thrilling, no doubt about it. I even managed a shopping complex in Africa at one point. Each role pushed me and helped me grow professionally, adding more strings to my bow. But as time went on, despite the external markers of success, a little niggle started to grow. It was a quiet feeling at first, a whisper of discontent amidst the hustle and bustle of executive life. I'd look around my plush office, at the busy schedule pinned to my wall, and think, is this really it? Is this what I want to be doing for the next 20 or 30 years? The work was demanding, often all-consuming, and I started to question whether the rewards truly matched the sacrifices. The long hours, the endless meetings, the feeling of being constantly switched on, it began to wear a bit thin, you know. This wasn't about being ungrateful for my position. Not at all. It was more a dawning realization that my definition of success was starting to shift. The corporate world had taught me so much, given me a fantastic foundation, but my heart was beginning to yearn for something more. I craved a different kind of fulfillment, a deeper sense of purpose, and crucially, more control over my own time and destiny. The idea of building something for myself, something that was truly mine, started to take root, even though the thought of leaving the perceived security of my job was utterly terrifying. The golden handcuffs were comfortable, but I was starting to feel the chafe. Then came a truly life-altering event, the kind that turns your world upside down in the most wonderful way imaginable. I became a mother. Holding my precious baby in my arms, everything shifted. Suddenly, my priorities underwent a massive transformation. The late nights at the office, the endless pursuit of the next promotion, it all seemed to fade in importance compared to this tiny human who depended on me for everything. My ambition didn't disappear, oh no, but it was redirected, reshaped by this overwhelming love and sense of responsibility. I wanted to be there for all the milestones, big and small, not just catch fleeting moments between work commitments. This incredible experience of motherhood lit a fire under my desire for financial independence like nothing else before. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about creating a secure and abundant future for my family, providing my children with opportunities, and, importantly, having the freedom to be a present and engaged parent. I started to dream of a life where I wasn't constantly torn between my career and my family, a life where I could set my own schedule and be there for school plays and bedtime stories, without asking for permission. This deep maternal instinct became a powerful, unwavering motivator to find another way, a better way. The traditional employee path, with its inherent limitations on time and autonomy, suddenly seemed less appealing than ever. I realized that if I continued down that road, I might miss out on so much. The thought of someone else raising my child while I was tied to a desk for 10 or 12 hours a day just didn't sit right with me anymore. It wasn't that I didn't want to work. I've always had a strong work ethic. But I wanted my work to fit around my life, not the other way around. This profound shift in perspective made the idea of entrepreneurship, once a distant and daunting concept, feel not just attractive, but almost essential. So the why behind my yearning for change became crystal clear. It was for my children, for my family, for the kind of life I wanted us to live together. This wasn't just a vague desire for more anymore. It was a deeply personal and emotionally charged mission. The corporate world had provided a great training ground, but it was motherhood that gave me the courage and the unwavering resolve to truly break the mold. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but the vision of a different future, a future with more freedom and family time, was too compelling to ignore. I was ready to explore new avenues, no matter how challenging. With this newfound clarity and a heart full of determination, I knew I had to try my hand at business. The thought of being my own boss, of building something from scratch, was both exhilarating and utterly petrifying. I remember sitting down with my husband and pouring out all my dreams and fears. Bless him, he's always been my rock. He listened patiently, understood my yearning for something different, and crucially, he agreed to support me on this new adventure. His unwavering belief in me, even when I was riddled with self-doubt, was an absolute game changer. We made a pact, a really important one for anyone considering this path. You see, we decided that while I ventured into the unpredictable world of self-employment, my husband would continue in his full-time job. This was absolutely vital. Having that stable income coming in was our safety net. It meant that my initial business attempts, which were bound to have their ups and downs, wouldn't put our family under immediate financial stress. I can't stress this enough. If you're dreaming of creating passive income or starting your own business, try to do it on the side of your full-time employment initially, or ensure at least one steady income stream remains. Giving up your secure 9-to-5 without a proven income-generating side business is, quite frankly, financial suicide. We were determined not to make that mistake. And so I took the plunge. I tried my hand at so many different things. Honestly, it was a period of intense experimentation. I was like a kid in a sweet shop, eager to explore every possibility. There were network marketing ventures, a bit of events planning. I even dabbled in some private car rental hires. Each little enterprise was a learning curve. Some ideas fizzled out pretty quickly. Others showed a glimmer of promise before hitting a roadblock. It wasn't about finding immediate runaway success. It was about getting my feet wet, understanding the nuts and bolts of running a business, and discovering what I was truly passionate about, and equally what I wasn't. The early days were a whirlwind of activity, often fueled by copious amounts of coffee and sheer willpower. I was juggling motherhood with these new entrepreneurial efforts, which meant many late nights after the kids were in bed, and snatching moments during nap times to make calls or work on plans. There were plenty of struggles, moments of frustration when things didn't go as planned, and times when I questioned if I'd made the right decision. But through it all, that desire for independence and a better future for my family kept me going. I was learning resilience, adaptability, and the art of picking myself up after a setback, invaluable lessons for any entrepreneur. Let me be absolutely clear. Those first few business ventures were not all shining examples of success stories. Far from it. There were ideas that I poured my heart, time, and a bit of money into, only to see them falter or fail to take off. It could be incredibly disheartening at times, I won't lie. You'd get your hopes up, envisioning this brilliant new income stream, only for reality to deliver a rather swift kick. Each setback, though, while painful in the moment, was actually a stepping stone, a lesson wrapped in a slightly rough package. I learned what didn't work, which is just as important as learning what does. One of the biggest takeaways from this period of entrepreneurial experimentation was the profound importance of that stable income my husband was bringing in. Knowing that our basic living expenses were covered allowed me the mental space to take these risks, to try and fail without the terrifying prospect of financial ruin looming over us. It reinforced our decision that quitting your day job prematurely, before your side hustle is reliably replacing that income, is a recipe for disaster. It creates unnecessary stress and pressure. often forcing you to make bad decisions out of desperation rather than strategic thinking. We avoided that trap, thankfully. These early forays into the business world taught me so much about myself too. I discovered I had a tenacity I didn't know existed. I learned about marketing on a shoestring budget, about negotiating with suppliers, about the sheer hard graft involved in making even a small amount of profit. It wasn't the glamorous world of entrepreneurship you sometimes see portrayed. It was often messy, uncertain, and demanding. But with each attempt, whether it succeeded or not, I was building a toolkit of practical skills and a much thicker skin, both essential for the bigger challenges that lay ahead in the property world. Ultimately, this period of trying many things was crucial. It wasn't a waste of time, even though some ventures didn't pan out. It was about finding my entrepreneurial feet, understanding the landscape, and slowly but surely figuring out where my true passion and talents lay. It was like navigating a maze. You take a few wrong turns before you find the right path. These experiences, with all their ups and downs, were conditioning me, preparing me for the much larger and more complex world of real estate investment. They built my grit and solidified my understanding that creating lasting wealth wouldn't be a get-rich-quick scheme, but a journey of persistence and smart decisions. After my initial flurries into various business ventures, which were fantastic learning experiences, mind you, I realized something crucial. While I was gaining invaluable entrepreneurial skills, I hadn't quite landed on that one big idea, that solid vehicle that would truly drive us towards long-term financial freedom. My earlier attempts were a bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck. Some bits did for a little while, but I knew deep down that to build something substantial, something like a 51-property empire, I needed a more focused, more strategic approach. I needed a field with proven potential for wealth creation, and increasingly, my thoughts turned towards property. It felt solid, tangible, and a path many successful people had walked before. The idea of formal education in real estate began to take hold. Now, I'm a professional accountant by qualification, so I've always valued structured learning and understanding the nuts and bolts of things. But property investing felt like a whole different universe, full of jargon and strategies I didn't yet understand. I saw people making a success of it, but I also heard cautionary tales of those who'd lost their shirts. I knew that if we were going to step into this arena, we couldn't just wing it. The stakes felt higher, the potential rewards greater, but so too were the potential pitfalls if we went in blind. I felt a real thirst to learn properly, from the ground up. The decision to properly invest in my property education wasn't taken lightly, let me tell you. These courses, the good ones anyway, represent a significant investment of both time and money. We're talking thousands of dollars, and for someone who was already trying to manage a household budget and had experienced the ups and downs of small business, it was a big commitment. There's always that little voice of doubt, isn't there? Can I afford this? Will it really be worth it? What if I choose the wrong course? But the alternative, the thought of dabbling in property without proper knowledge and potentially making costly mistakes seemed far riskier in the long run. So I started my research. The world of property education can be a bit of a maze, with so many gurus and experts promising the keys to the kingdom. I began to meticulously look into different mentors, read testimonials, and try to discern who genuinely offered substantial, actionable knowledge. I wasn't looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. I was looking for comprehensive education that would empower me to make informed decisions. It felt like I was on the cusp of a really exciting new chapter, a proper deep dive that I hoped would equip me with the tools to finally build the future we dreamed of. The odyssey was about to begin. I remember the buzz of anticipation before my first major property bootcamp like it was yesterday. It was with a well-known name in the property world, a name that kept cropping up in my research as a real powerhouse in property education. Walking into that conference room, filled with hundreds of other aspiring investors, there was such an incredible energy in the air. It was a mix of excitement, nervousness, and a shared hunger for knowledge. I had my notebook ready, pen poised, determined to soak up every single word. It felt like a significant step, a proper commitment to this new path, and I was both thrilled and a little bit daunted by it all, to be perfectly honest. And crikey, those first few days were an absolute absolute revelation. It was like someone had switched on a massive floodlight in a previously dark room. Concepts that had seemed so complex and intimidating began to make sense. This property guru had this amazing way of breaking things down, making them accessible and, dare I say it, even exciting. One of the first major light bulb moments for me was understanding the power of leveraging other people's money, responsibly of course, and how you could actually build a substantial portfolio much faster than I'd ever imagined. It completely shifted my perspective from just saving up for one deposit at a time to thinking on a much grander, more strategic scale. The sheer volume of information was immense, almost overwhelming at times, but in the best possible way. We covered everything from market analysis and property selection to finance strategies and risk management. There were practical exercises where we'd analyse potential deals and invaluable opportunities to network with other attendees, sharing stories and experiences. It wasn't just dry theory, it was alive, it was practical, and you could see how these strategies could be applied in the real world. I furiously scribbled notes, my mind racing with ideas and possibilities. It felt like my brain was expanding with every session, every new concept introduced. Leaving that first bootcamp, I felt absolutely energized, like I'd been given a new pair of glasses and could suddenly see the path ahead with so much more clarity. The fear and uncertainty hadn't vanished completely, of course, but they were now overshadowed by a powerful sense of empowerment and a clear sense of direction. I knew this was just the beginning of my educational journey, but it was such a pivotal start. It gave me the foundational knowledge, and just as importantly, the confidence to believe that, yes, we could actually do this. The investment already felt like it was paying off, not in dollars yet, but in priceless knowledge and motivation. That first property bootcamp was the springboard, but I quickly realized that the world of property investment is multifaceted, with so many different niches and strategies. No single guru has all the answers for every situation. So our educational odyssey continued, and we made a conscious decision to learn from a variety of experts, each a master in their particular domain. We sought out one property guru, for instance, to understand creative strategies like how to buy a house for $1. Fascinating stuff that really opens your mind to unconventional approaches. Then there was another expert who specialized in buying quality, negatively geared properties for long-term growth. A completely different but equally valid perspective. Each course, each mentor, added another layer to our understanding, another tool to our ever-expanding toolkit. We delved into the world of renovations with Australia's Renovation Queen's teachings. Her insights into how to add value through smart cosmetic or structural changes were absolute gold, teaching us how to manufacture equity and achieve quicker growth. We learned from two top property development gurus and started gaining an understanding of bigger projects, though we knew to walk before we could run. And crucially, we didn't neglect the financial nuts and bolts, undertaking courses with our accounting team to get our heads around the vital accounting and taxation aspects of property investment, which is so often overlooked, but is absolutely key to long-term success. I vividly recall a session with a known property developer, another highly respected figure, where he spoke about the importance of developing a sound investment philosophy and understanding market cycles. It wasn't just about finding a property, it was about finding the right property, in the right location, at the right time, and for the right price, all aligned with your long-term goals. It sounds simple, but his structured approach to due diligence and risk assessment was incredibly valuable. It taught me to look beyond the glossy brochures and emotional appeal of a property and to focus on the cold, hard facts and figures, ensuring every purchase was a strategic step, not just a hopeful punt. This commitment to continuous learning involved nearly 10 full bootcamp courses and countless hours of study, webinars, and reading. It was a significant financial outlay, costing us thousands upon thousands of dollars, but we viewed it as an investment in ourselves, in our future, and in our ability to build that property empire we were aiming for. Every course fee, every late night studying, felt like a deposit into our knowledge bank. And looking back, the return on that educational investment has been immeasurable, underpinning every successful decision we've made in building our portfolio. It was, without a shadow of a doubt, worth every single cent. All this intensive education wasn't just about collecting certificates or filling notebooks with theory, far from it. The real magic happened when we started to synthesize all that knowledge, to connect the dots between what different experts taught, and to forge our own unique investment strategy. It was a gradual transformation, honestly, moving from being a slightly overwhelmed student diligently taking notes to becoming a confident strategist, able to critically analyze opportunities and make informed decisions. I learned that while the gurus provide incredible frameworks and insights, you ultimately have to adapt those learnings to your own personal circumstances, your risk tolerance, and your specific financial goals. This period of intense learning fundamentally rewired my thinking about wealth creation. Before, my approach to business had been somewhat opportunistic, just trying different things to see what would work. But property education gave me a robust, systematic framework. I learned to think like an investor, not just a saver or a spender. I understood the power of compound growth, the strategic use of leverage, and the importance of cash flow. It was like learning a new language, the language of financial freedom, and suddenly, conversations about yields, capital growth, and equity made perfect sense. This new literacy gave me immense confidence. The practical application of this knowledge was where the rubber truly met the road. Suddenly, analysing a potential property deal wasn't a terrifying leap into the unknown. We had checklists, we knew what questions to ask, we understood how to run the numbers to assess viability. Thanks to mentors like those from the development group who focused solely on subdivisions. We learned how to identify areas with strong growth potential, how to negotiate effectively, and crucially, how to manage the inherent risks involved in property investment. Understanding the tax implications from our accounting team meant we could structure our investments efficiently from the outset, saving us potential headaches and money down the line. Even after completing so many courses, I realized that education in real estate is an ongoing journey. The markets change, legislation evolves, and new strategies emerge. That initial blitz of learning provided an incredibly strong foundation, a bedrock of knowledge upon which we've built our entire portfolio. But the key is to remain curious, to keep learning, and to stay adaptable. The real estate education odyssey wasn't just a phase, it was the beginning of a lifelong commitment to mastering our craft. It transformed us from hopeful dreamers into capable, strategic investors, ready to build our empire, one carefully chosen property at a time. Right then, so we'd filled our heads with all this amazing knowledge from the bootcamps and mentors. That was absolutely brilliant, a real game changer. But let me tell you a secret. All the education in the world won't get you far if you don't have the right mindset. It's the absolute bedrock, the foundation upon which everything else is built. For us, it meant shifting from a place of, can we really do this? To how are we going to make this happen? It was about cultivating an unshakable belief, even when our property portfolio was just a dream sketched out on paper. We had to see that 51 property empire in our minds long before it existed in reality. Overcoming self-doubt was a constant companion in those early days, and sometimes, even now, it tries to pop its head up. That little voice whispering negatives, the imposter syndrome telling you you're not cut out for this. It's a tough one to silence. But we learned to acknowledge it, and then firmly tell it to take a hike. We actively worked on our mindset, almost like training a muscle. We'd visualize our goals, imagine the feeling of financial freedom, and remind ourselves of how far we'd already come from those humble beginnings I told you about. It wasn't about being arrogant. It was about building genuine self-belief, brick by mental brick, day by day. Goal setting became our superpower. And I'm not talking about vague wishes like we want to be rich. Oh no, we got super specific. We set clear, measurable targets for the number of properties we wanted to acquire, the passive income we aimed for, and the time frame to achieve it. Smart goals, as they say, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Breaking down the massive goal of a property empire into smaller, manageable steps made it feel less overwhelming and more doable. Each small win, like securing that first investment property, then the second, fueled our motivation and reinforced that powerful, positive mindset. And you definitely need that strong mindset when you're out there in the trenches. Because let me tell you, you'll hear no a lot. Banks might initially turn you down for finance. Agents might not take you seriously at first, or a deal you've poured your heart into might fall through at the last minute. It can be incredibly disheartening if you let it. But with a resilient mindset, these knockbacks become learning opportunities, not dead ends. You dust yourself off, figure out what went wrong, adjust your approach, and go again. It's that unwavering belief in your ultimate success that keeps you pushing forward, even when the path gets a bit rocky. Now, building a property empire isn't for the faint of heart. It absolutely involves taking risks. But, and this is a massive but, we're talking about risks, not wild, reckless gambling. There's a world of difference. Before we made any move, especially in the early days, we did our homework. Thanks to all that education, we learned how to analyze deals, research areas, and understand market dynamics. It was about making informed decisions, weighing up the potential rewards against the potential downsides, and having contingency plans in place. It meant stepping out of our comfort zone, for sure, but with our eyes wide open, not squeezed shut in a hopeful prayer. I still remember the jitters when we bought our first few investment properties after all that intensive learning. Even with all the knowledge, taking that first plunge felt huge. The sums of money involved seemed astronomical back then. We'd lie in bed at night, going over the figures again and again, questioning if we'd missed anything. But we'd done our due diligence. The numbers stacked up according to the strategies we'd learned, and we knew that inaction, staying stuck in our comfort zone, was a bigger risk to our long-term financial goals. So, we took a deep breath, trusted our training and our research, and signed on the dotted line. We weren't afraid to embrace strategies that felt a bit bold at the time. For instance, we looked at areas that weren't yet hotspots but showed strong underlying fundamentals for future growth. That required a bit of foresight and trusting our research over popular opinion. We also took on properties that needed a bit of work, a cosmetic renovation perhaps, using her teachings to manufacture equity and increase their value relatively quickly. This wasn't just about buying and hoping, it was about actively adding value. Each decision felt like a stretch, pushing our boundaries, but they were all underpinned by careful calculation and strategic thinking, not just a whim. Of course, having that safety net we'd established earlier, with my husband still in his full-time job, was crucial. It gave us the confidence to take these calculated risks without the terrifying fear of losing our home if one particular investment didn't perform as expected straight away. We also made sure to build up cash buffers, a financial cushion for unexpected repairs or vacancies. This financial prudence allowed us to be more strategic and less emotional in our decision-making. It meant we could make bold moves from a position of relative security, which is a much smarter way to play the property game, believe me. Anyone who tells you that building a significant property portfolio and achieving passive income is truly passive from day one is probably trying to sell you something. Especially in the accumulation phase, it's anything but passive. It requires an enormous amount of hard work, dedication, and good old-fashioned grit. There were no shortcuts for us. We poured countless hours into finding the right deals, doing our due diligence, negotiating, and managing the process. It became like a second job, often bleeding into evenings and weekends. The vision of that future empire was our fuel, but the engine running on that fuel was pure, unadulterated hard graft. Juggling this intense focus on property with family life, especially with young children, was a massive challenge. I won't pretend otherwise. There were many late nights spent at the computer after the kids were finally asleep, analysing spreadsheets or researching potential investments. Early mornings often started not with a leisurely coffee, but with a list of property-related tasks to tackle before the day job or school run began. Weekends were frequently consumed by property inspections or attending auctions. We had to make sacrifices, there's no doubt about it. Social events were missed, hobbies were put on hold, but we kept our eyes on the long-term prize, reminding ourselves why we were doing it. In the early days, we were very hands-on. We didn't have the funds to outsource everything, nor did we necessarily want to. We wanted to learn the ropes from the ground up. This meant trudging through countless open homes, sometimes with kids in tow, which is an adventure in itself. We learned to negotiate fiercely but fairly. We managed our first few tenants ourselves, learning about tenancy agreements and dispute resolution. When we undertook renovations, we were deeply involved in the planning and oversight, even if we weren't swinging the sledgehammer ourselves. This hands-on approach, while demanding, gave us an invaluable, intimate understanding of every facet of property investment. And I absolutely have to say, this was never a solo mission. My husband was my partner in every sense of the word. We were a team. We'd divide tasks based on our strengths. He might be brilliant at the number crunching and financial analysis, while I focused on finding the deals and managing the project side. We'd bounce ideas off each other, offer support when one of us was feeling overwhelmed or disheartened, and celebrate every small victory together. That partnership, that shared commitment and ability to lift each other up, was absolutely fundamental to our ability to sustain the hard work required over so many years. Now, I'd love to tell you it was all smooth sailing from the moment we started investing, but that just wouldn't be true, would it? The journey to building a 51-property empire was definitely peppered with its fair share of setbacks and challenges. Oh yes, we had them. We've experienced the nightmare tenant who leaves a property in a terrible state, the renovation that blew the budget and timeline due to unforeseen issues, and those heart-stopping moments when the market takes a dip and you wonder if you've made a terrible mistake. These things happen, they're part of the investing landscape, and you have to be prepared for them. The key, we found, wasn't to avoid setbacks altogether. That's pretty much impossible. But to learn how to navigate them effectively. When something went wrong, we'd allow ourselves a brief moment to groan, and then we'd get straight into problem-solving mode. What's the issue? What are our options? What's the best way forward? We treated every challenge as a learning experience, albeit sometimes a painful one. It taught us to build better systems, to improve our due diligence, and to become more resilient. We refused to let these hurdles derail our entire vision. Instead, we used them to become smarter, more seasoned investors. What really helped us stay the course during these tricky times was our unwavering focus on the long-term vision. Property investment, especially when you're building a substantial portfolio for lasting wealth, is a marathon, not a sprint. It's so easy to get spooked by short-term market fluctuations or minor tenancy issues if you're only looking at the next few months. But we always tried to keep our eyes on the 10, 20, 30-year horizon. We knew that quality assets in good locations tend to perform well over the long run, smoothing out the inevitable bumps along the way. This long-term perspective was our anchor. And slowly but surely, through sheer perseverance, that unwavering mindset, those calculated risks, and all that hard work, the empire began to take shape. One property became 2, then 5, then 10, and onwards. Each successful acquisition, each bit of equity we built, each stream of rental income, reinforced our belief that we were on the right path. It wasn't an overnight success story, not by any stretch of the imagination. It was the cumulative effect of years of consistent effort, learning, and not giving up when things got tough. That's the real secret sauce. Perseverance, fueled by a clear why and an unshakable belief. Well, blow me down. After years of beavering away, learning the ropes and steadily building our portfolio, something rather unexpected started to happen. People began to take notice. It wasn't something we ever really aimed for, if I'm honest. Our main goal was always to achieve that financial freedom for our family, to build something lasting. But then the phone started ringing and emails landed in our inbox from journalists and editors. It was a bit surreal, really, to think that our story, our little journey from those very humble beginnings to building a significant property portfolio, was something that others might find interesting or even, dare I say, inspiring. It was a proper pinch-me moment, I can tell you that much. The first time we saw our story in a glossy magazine, it was an incredibly proud and humbling experience. In 2012, the very well-respected Your Investment Property magazine decided to feature us. I remember holding that magazine in my hands, seeing our photos and words on the pages, and feeling a real sense of validation. It wasn't just about the properties anymore. It was about the journey, the sheer hard work, the learning, and the perseverance that had gone into it. Then, to be approached by the senior editor to blog for their website, well, I was absolutely chuffed to bits. It felt like we'd truly earned our stripes in a way, that our experiences had some value to share. The recognition didn't stop there, which still bowls me over a bit. In 2014, we were named second runner-up in the Your Investment Property magazine's Investor of the Year Awards. To be acknowledged like that amongst so many other talented investors across Australia was a massive honour. Fast forward to 2022, and we found ourselves featured in the I Love Real Estate magazine as one of their 16 amazing stories of how to achieve financial freedom using real estate. Each feature, each accolade, wasn't just a pat on the back. It was a reminder that our methodical approach, our commitment to education, and our willingness to take those calculated risks were indeed paying off, not just for us, but as a story that could hopefully light a fire under others too. And then, something truly special happened in 2025. The Australian Property Investor magazine, one of the absolute top publications in the field, ran a big feature on our journey. From foreign coups and humble beginnings to a 51-property empire. Seeing that headline, summing up so much of our life's work and challenges, was quite emotional. It made us reflect on just how far we'd come. I reckon the reason these respected magazines took an interest was because our story wasn't one of overnight luck or inherited wealth. It was about ordinary people achieving something extraordinary through dedication and a clear strategy. And I think that's a message that resonates with a lot of folks out there, dreaming of their own version of success. Beyond the magazine articles and awards, there were other moments of recognition that really stand out in my memory, moments that felt incredibly personal and impactful. One of the most unforgettable experiences was back in 2015 when we were finalists in the I Love Real Estate competition. Now, this wasn't just a little local contest. The grand prize was a fully paid-off house in the USA, can you imagine? We didn't quite snag the house, but being a finalist was an incredible adventure in itself. They flew us down to Melbourne, all expenses paid, which felt terribly glamorous, I must admit. The main event in Melbourne was a huge conference with about 1,000 people in the audience. And guess what? We were asked to get up on stage and share our story. Talk about nerve-wracking. Public speaking wasn't really my forte back then, but standing there looking out at all those eager faces and recounting our journey, the struggles, the breakthroughs, the lessons learnt, it was an incredibly powerful experience. You could feel the energy in the room, the collective desire for knowledge and inspiration. It made me realize that our story had the potential to genuinely connect with people and perhaps give them that little nudge they needed to start their own journey. Another truly humbling moment came in 2021 when this property guru, someone I deeply admire and one of the first property gurus we learned so much from, decided to include our story in her magazine, Secrets of Successful Property Investors, revealed to be featured alongside other successful investors in this series of books that were released Australia-wide. Well, that's something else, isn't it? It felt like coming full circle in a way. We had been avid students of her teachings, and now our story was being used as an example to inspire her next wave of students. It was a real testament to putting those learnings into consistent action. These experiences, being in magazines, on stages, and in books, weren't about seeking fame or applause. For us, it slowly evolved into a sense of responsibility. If our journey, with all its ups and downs, could provide a roadmap or even just a spark of hope for someone else feeling stuck or dreaming of more, then sharing it became something we felt compelled to do. It wasn't just our story anymore. It was a story that showed what's possible with the right mindset, education, and a whole heap of determination. And that, lovely people, is a message worth sharing far and wide, don't you think? So why did our story, out of all the many tales of property investment out there, seem to capture a bit of attention? I've thought about this quite a bit, you know. I reckon it's because people could see themselves in us. We weren't born with silver spoons. We didn't have access to a big pile of cash to get started. We were just an ordinary couple who dared to dream big and then, crucially, put in the hard yards to make those dreams a reality. Our journey showcased that building significant wealth through property wasn't some exclusive club reserved for the already rich or extraordinarily gifted. It was accessible if you were willing to learn and apply the right principles consistently. The media, I think, picked up on the fact that our success wasn't based on luck or some risky, speculative gamble. It was built on a solid foundation of extensive education. We didn't just dip our toes in, we dived headfirst into learning from the best, completing close to 10 full bootcamp courses, as I've mentioned. This commitment to understanding the ins and outs of property investment, from finance and negotiation to renovation and development, shone through. It demonstrated that our achievements were the result of a deliberate, strategic approach, something that others could potentially replicate if they were prepared to invest in their own knowledge bank first. Our story also highlighted those crucial pillars of success that resonate universally: the power of setting clear goals, cultivating a resilient mindset, being prepared to take calculated risks, and the absolute necessity of perseverance. These aren't just buzzwords, they are the very essence of any significant achievement. People could see that we'd faced setbacks, that it hadn't always been easy, but we'd kept going. This narrative of overcoming obstacles and staying true to your long-term vision, I believe, is always inspiring because it's so relatable to the human experience. It shows that success is often just on the other side of wanting to give up. Ultimately, what our journey represented was a tangible pathway to financial independence, a way to break free from the traditional 9-to-5 grind if that's what you desired. It showed that you could design a life of choice and freedom, rather than just accepting the one you fell into. The fact that we built a 51-property portfolio, creating substantial passive income, was proof that the strategies worked. It wasn't just theory, it was a real-life case study. And I think that's what people are looking for. Not just inspiration, but also practical evidence that these life-changing goals are genuinely attainable with the right knowledge and unwavering effort. All this recognition has been wonderful, truly, but the best part, the absolute best part, is being able to pay it forward. It's about taking all those lessons, all those experiences from our 2 decades in the property game and sharing them with others who are just starting out or looking to take their own investing to the next level. Because here's the thing, I genuinely believe that what we've achieved, others can achieve too. It's not about some secret formula. It's about applying proven principles with dedication. And if our story can light a spark or provide a bit of guidance, then that's the most rewarding achievement of all. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but where do I even begin? It all sounds so overwhelming. And I get that, I truly do. Remember when I talked about my husband staying in his full-time job while I started exploring businesses? That's a crucial piece of advice. Don't put yourself under unnecessary financial stress by quitting your day job prematurely. If you need to build up some capital for your education or your first deposit, look at starting a side business. In the brief, I mentioned giving you actual numbers of businesses you could try. While I can't give specific financial projections for individual ventures, think about leveraging skills you already have. Perhaps offering freelance services, tutoring, creating and selling crafts online, or even something like managing social media for small local businesses. The key is to find something that can generate extra cash flow without requiring a massive upfront investment, so you can fund your bigger dreams. The most important initial step, before you even think about buying a property, is to invest in your education. I can't stress this enough. The thousands we spent on courses with several property gurus experts in property, from buying houses with just $1 to Australia's renovation queen, to negative gearing experts and top property developers, paid for themselves many, many times over by helping us avoid costly mistakes and identify the best opportunities. Look for reputable mentors, do your research and commit to learning. Understand market fundamentals, finance strategies, risk management, and the legalities involved. This knowledge will be your most valuable asset, empowering you to make confident, informed decisions rather than just guessing or relying on hot tips from unqualified sources. And finally, remember that creating long-lasting wealth, the kind you can genuinely retire on, requires that potent mix I keep coming back to: clear goal setting, a positive and resilient mindset, unwavering determination, the courage to take calculated risks, a willingness to work exceptionally hard, especially at the start, and sheer perseverance when things get tough. It's a journey, not a destination you reach overnight. There will be challenges, but with each one you overcome, you'll grow stronger and wiser. So take that first step, commit to your learning, and believe in your ability to create the life you desire. We did it starting from very little, and I'm absolutely certain that you can too. My journey from those very first tentative steps to where we are standing today might seem like a colossal leap, but I truly want to assure you that it's built upon principles that absolutely anyone can grasp and implement. It's not about possessing some innate financial genius or having access to secret exclusive connections. Fundamentally, it's about understanding and believing that you, yes, you listening to this right now, possess the inherent capacity within you to learn, to grow, and to create truly extraordinary and lasting change in your financial life. We started out as perfectly ordinary people just like you, armed with dreams and a willingness to chase them. The path to building genuine wealth isn't hidden behind some complex code. It's clearly there for anyone ready to walk it with open eyes and an open mind, prepared to absorb, adapt, and diligently apply the lessons. The very first, and perhaps the most crucial tool in your entire arsenal as you embark on this adventure, is your mindset. Before you even think about looking at property listings or signing up for educational seminars, you absolutely need to cultivate that unshakable, unwavering belief that you can achieve your goals. It's about shifting your internal dialogue from phrases like "I wish I could" to the much more powerful "I will find a way," and transforming "what if I fail" into "how can I make this work for me?" This isn't just feel-good, positive thinking. It's about building a resilient mental framework that can withstand the inevitable challenges, doubts, and fears. Remember how I had to silence that voice of imposter syndrome? You'll need to develop that skill too, by choosing belief over fear, every single day. Once your mindset is gearing up for success, the next vital step is to commit to your education. Don't underestimate the transformative power of learning from those who've walked the path before you. My own journey was supercharged by the knowledge I gained from intensive boot camps and learning from experienced mentors. Think of this not as an expense, but as a critical investment in yourself and your future earning capacity. This education is the foundation for making informed, strategic decisions that will save you from costly mistakes. Seek out reputable sources, immerse yourself in the learning process, and absorb every piece of actionable advice you can find. This knowledge will be the catalyst that transforms you from a hopeful amateur into a confident, capable strategist. Hand in hand with mindset and education comes the power of setting crystal clear goals. You wouldn't set off on a car journey without a destination in your GPS, would you? The same logic applies to building wealth. Vague aspirations like "I want to be better off" or "I'd like to own some property" won't provide the necessary drive or direction. You need to define precisely what you want to achieve. Perhaps a certain number of properties, a specific level of passive income, or a target date for financial freedom. Writing these goals down, making them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, transforms them from wishes into a roadmap. For us, that vision of a 51-property empire wasn't just an arbitrary number, it served as a constant guiding beacon. What's your guiding beacon going to be? Now let's be absolutely real and upfront about this. This incredible, potentially life-changing journey you're about to embark on, or perhaps have already taken the first few steps along, will undoubtedly have its fair share of twists, turns, and unexpected challenges. It's rarely a perfectly straight, smooth road leading directly to success. There will inevitably be bumps, unforeseen detours, and moments when you feel like you're slogging uphill through treacle with a heavy backpack on. This is precisely where perseverance, that dogged determination to keep going, becomes your most steadfast and valuable companion. Remember, building truly lasting wealth, the kind that provides enduring security, is a marathon, not a sprint. We faced plenty of setbacks ourselves, from dealing with truly difficult tenants to managing renovations that blew their budgets sky high. But the thought of giving up was simply never an option we entertained. You must consciously cultivate that inner grit, that unyielding determination to keep pushing forward even when it's incredibly tough, because quite often your biggest breakthroughs are waiting for you just beyond the point where most other people decide to quit. Alongside unwavering perseverance, it is absolutely crucial that you embrace the concept of taking calculated risks. Please do notice that I specifically said calculated. This isn't about recklessly throwing caution to the wind, making impulsive decisions, or placing wild, uninformed bets based on a gut feeling or a hot tip from a mate down the pub. True, sustainable wealth creation through property inherently involves stepping out of your existing comfort zone. Yes, but it means doing so with your eyes wide open, fully armed with thorough research, a deep understanding of market dynamics, and a solid grasp of the potential upsides and, just as importantly, the potential downsides. Every single investment decision we made, particularly in those crucial early days, was preceded by hours of meticulous due diligence and financial modeling. We carefully weighed the risks, developed contingency plans for various scenarios, and always ensured we weren't overextending ourselves financially beyond what was sensible and manageable. Prudence, my friends, is your trusted ally, not your enemy, in this exciting endeavor. There's simply no getting around it. Lovely people. Achieving something truly significant and worthwhile, like genuine financial independence and the freedom it brings, requires a substantial and sustained dose of good old-fashioned hard work. Especially during the accumulation phase, when you're actively building your property portfolio piece by piece, it's anything but a passive activity, despite what some might try to tell you. You must be fully prepared to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, metaphorically and sometimes literally, and put in the considerable hours required. For us, this often translated into many late nights spent hunched over the computer researching deals after the children were finally asleep, weekends consumed by attending open homes or property auctions, and making conscious sacrifices in other areas of our social and personal lives. The dream provides the essential fuel, but consistent, focused, and often unglamorous effort is the powerful engine that will ultimately drive you forward towards your goals. Don't ever shy away from the graft. It's the defining factor that separates the lifelong dreamers from the successful achievers. And what is it that keeps that engine running at full tilt when you're feeling utterly exhausted, when you've just faced a particularly disheartening setback, or when the metaphorical mountain ahead seems impossibly steep and daunting to climb? It's passion, pure and simple. You need to connect deeply and authentically with your fundamental why, the core reasons you're undertaking this journey in the first place. For my husband and me, our unwavering driving force was always our family, the profound desire to create a secure and abundant future for our children, and to gain the precious freedom to live life entirely on our own terms, beholden to no one. When your ambitious goals are intrinsically tied to something so profoundly meaningful and personal, the inevitable hard work feels less like an arduous burden and much more like a purposeful, energizing mission. So I urge you to dig deep within yourself and clearly identify what truly motivates you at your core. Let that passion be the unwavering, brilliant flame that lights your path and keeps you resolutely going through thick and thin, come what may. So here we are, at the culmination of sharing my story with you. You've heard about our journey, from those very humble beginnings to the 51 property empire we've built. You've hopefully seen the tangible possibilities that lie ahead. And perhaps, just perhaps, a little spark of excitement and ambition has been well and truly ignited within you. What happens next? Well, my dear friend, the single most crucial and impactful thing you can possibly do at this very moment is to take decisive action. All the inspiration, motivation, and accumulated knowledge in the entire world won't change a single thing in your life if you don't actively translate it into tangible, concrete steps. That big, audacious dream you're carefully nurturing right now desperately needs you to move from the comfortable realm of contemplation into the dynamic arena of creation. The age-old saying, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step," holds profound truth. Don't let fear of the unknown or the paralyzing grip of procrastination hold you back any longer. Your moment to start building your own unique success story is right here, right now. And please, I implore you, don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need to have absolutely everything perfectly figured out, all your ducks in a neat row before you even dare to begin. Honestly, nobody ever does. That vital first step doesn't have to be some giant, earth-shattering leap. It can be something as simple and manageable as dedicating an evening to researching a reputable property investment course, opening a new dedicated savings account specifically for your first property deposit, or even just sitting down with a notebook and pen to write down your financial goals with absolute clarity and conviction. The key is to create positive momentum. Each small action you take builds upon the last, creating a powerful, virtuous feedback loop that propels you forward with increasing speed and confidence. You'll learn invaluable lessons and adapt your strategies as you go, refining your approach and growing in self-assurance with every new experience, every challenge overcome. Just start. Imagine, just for a moment, what achieving your most cherished financial goals could truly mean for you and for your loved ones. Picture the unparalleled freedom to choose exactly how you spend your precious time each day. The profound sense of security that comes from knowing your financial future is well provided for. The exhilarating ability to pursue your passions without the constant worry of financial constraints. And the incredible legacy of opportunity and stability you could build for generations to come. This journey isn't just about accumulating properties or amassing a pile of money. It's about thoughtfully and intentionally designing a life that is rich in meaningful experiences, abundant opportunities, and a deep, abiding sense of peace of mind. That incredible future is not just some distant, unattainable dream. It's a potential reality, patiently waiting for you to claim it, built one smart decision, one brave step at a time. That's the wonderful reality we've found, and it's truly something special. My personal journey, from those decidedly humble beginnings to the eventual creation of a 51-property empire, stands as a living testament to what is genuinely possible when you combine a determined, resilient mindset with an unwavering commitment to continuous education, the carefully considered courage to take calculated risks, and an unshakable, relentless perseverance. I am fundamentally no different from you. If I, an ordinary person with big dreams, could achieve this, then I truly, wholeheartedly, and unequivocally believe that you can too. The path is clearly there. The necessary tools and knowledge are readily available. The only missing ingredient in this recipe for success is your conscious decision to begin and your unwavering commitment to see it through to fruition. So, take a deep, calming breath. Believe profoundly in yourself and your capabilities, and step forward with confidence into your brighter, more abundant future. You've absolutely got this.